Nothing in the universe can outrun light. That's what we're told. A rule older than rockets, older than planets, older even than stars. But why should it be true? Why does the universe draw this hard line in the sand, a speed no one can cross? You can imagine speed without limit, arrows faster than bullets, ships leaping instantly across the galaxy, thoughts reaching every corner of the cosmos in a blink. So why not? Why should light, and only light, be allowed to set the pace of reality? The rule feels almost arbitrary at first. If you can run faster, drive faster, fly faster, then surely there must be a way to push further. After all, every other record humans have encountered, heights scaled, depths reached, distances crossed, has eventually been broken. So why not this one? Why should speed of all things be the exception? And yet it is. The cosmos is stubborn here, inflexible in a way that makes you wonder if speed itself is tied to something more fundamental than motion. If the speed of light is the ultimate limit, then perhaps it is not just about how fast things move. Perhaps it is about how reality itself is stitched together. You picture light streaming through the void, a photon released from the burning surface of a star racing outward. For years, decades, centuries, it moves unflinching, unbending. No matter who watches it, no matter how fast they themselves are moving, the photon insists on its pace. Always the same, always obedient to the rule. And in that obedience, you sense a mystery. Because if light is constant, then everything else must shift around it. It's as though the universe has built its geometry not on mass or distance, but on speed. And if that's true, then the speed of light is not just a limit, it's a foundation. It's the floor beneath your feet, the canvas on which time itself is painted. But still, the question lingers, why? Why can't something else move faster? Why can't you imagine a rocket that simply adds more thrust, more power, more ingenuity? Isn't that what progress has always meant, pushing against barriers until they yield? You lean into the thought, tracing it out like a story. Imagine for a moment a spacecraft designed without compromise, engines blazing with impossible energy, fuel drawn from the heart of stars. It pushes harder and harder, velocity climbing with every passing second, past the speed of sound, past the speed of bullets, past the reach of planets, the gravity of suns, faster still until the stars themselves blur into streaks. And yet the closer this ship comes to the speed of light, the more resistance it faces. Not from friction, not from air, but from reality itself. As though the fabric of space-time resists, twisting, stretching, warping, reminding the traveler, you may approach, but you will never surpass. The ship can inch closer, 90%, 99%, 99.9%, each step requiring exponentially more energy, each fraction of progress demanding a cost greater than the last, until finally it becomes clear the final barrier is infinite. To push an object with mass to the speed of light would require infinite energy, an impossible demand one no engine can satisfy. And so the ship falls short, not because it lacks courage or technology, but because the laws themselves refuse. This is what unsettles you most. The refusal is not external. It is not a wall you might climb or break. It is the very structure of the stage, as though the playwright of the universe has written into the script, this is how fast you may run and no faster. But if the playwright is reality itself, then perhaps the rule exists for a reason. Perhaps the ceiling is not arbitrary but protective, a way of holding the cosmos together. Because if things could move faster than light, then what would happen to cause and effect? Could messages arrive before they were sent? Could effects precede their causes? Would time unravel, slipping backward and sideways, making nonsense of everything you know? The thought laves a chill. Faster than light travel isn't just a matter of speed, it's a matter of meaning. You imagine your own life in this light. Every step you take, every breath you draw, every word you speak, all unfolding in a sequence that feels natural, first this, then that, cause and effect, action and response. But if light's limit could be broken, the sequence itself might fail. Events could fold over one another. Time could split, loop, or fracture. The story of the world could stop making sense. Perhaps that is why the rule is enforced so absolutely. Not because the universe wishes to deny you speed, but because without that boundary, there would be no story at all. No time, no order, no reality you could recognize. And yet, still you wonder, is it truly impossible? Or is it only that we do not yet understand the loopholes? Physicists whisper about wormholes, about quantum tunnels, about the bending of space itself. Perhaps the key is not to outrun light but to sidestep it, to bend the board instead of running across it. For now, though, the ceiling holds. The speed of light remains unbeaten, undefeated, the final champion of motion. And you, lying here in thought, cannot help but feel the weight of that fact. Because to live in a universe with limits is to live with mystery, to know that some doors cannot be opened, some walls cannot be climbed. But it also means that the walls themselves matter. They are not arbitrary obstacles. They are the shape of reality. They are the reason time moves forward, the reason events make sense, the reason you can call this moment now. You close your eyes and picture that again, a photon racing outward through darkness, constant and unbroken, always at the same pace, no matter who watches, no matter what happens around it, a runner whose stride defines the track itself. Nothing can surpass the speed of light, not because we haven't yet found a way, but because the universe itself is woven around that fact. And somewhere in that weaving lies the deeper question, not just why can't we go faster, but what does it mean that light alone holds this privilege? That question will stay with you. It will follow you into sleep and beyond. You think of limits and how they've always been temporary. Once there was the sound barrier. People said no machine could ever fly faster than sound without tearing itself apart. Yet the roar of jet engines proved otherwise. The sky did not collapse, it opened. Once there was the barrier of the ocean floor, too much pressure, too much darkness, they said, and yet humans descended into the Mariana Trench. Once there was the barrier of the moon, forever unreachable, forever distant, until one evening a man stepped onto its surface and left a footprint in the dust. So why should the speed of light be different? Why should this one limit stand so absolute, immune to every breakthrough, every rebellion against nature's walls? You feel the frustration in the question, the stubbornness of a rule that seems unyielding. It's not in human nature to accept impossibility. And yet, the deeper you look, the more it seems that this speed limit is not a challenge to be overcome, but the very stage on which challenges are even possible. Because the truth is stranger than the frustration. Light is not merely fast, it is not just a record holder, it is the frame of the picture. Without its speed there is no way to measure time, no way to know distance, no way to connect cause to effect. The speed of light doesn't just govern how quickly something can move, it governs how reality itself can be experienced. And that idea bends your intuition, slowly at first, then more sharply. Because if speed is relative, then so must be time. You feel it not as an abstract but as something lived. Imagine traveling near light speed. To you the journey would feel normal, as though minutes passed in steady rhythm. But to the world outside, your clock would run differently. Time would bend, stretch, break into perspective. It is here that the true strangeness begins. Because the universe is not interested in your common sense. It is loyal instead to the mathematics of relativity, to the deeper coherence that lies beneath appearances. And relativity says this: everyone, no matter how they move, must always measure light at the same speed. Always. That rule demands a sacrifice, and what it sacrifices is your ordinary sense of time and space. One person's second is not another's. One person's distance is not the same as another's. Both are bent and stretched, constantly reshaped, in order to protect that unchanging speed of light. You breathe slowly, letting that sink in. Time itself is pliable. Distance is negotiable. What you call reality is not fixed but adjusted, flexed and warped, all so that light remains untouchable. It almost feels unfair, as though the cosmos is conspiring to protect this runner, clearing every obstacle, shifting the very track beneath your feet to guarantee that nothing will ever outpace it. But the fairness of it is irrelevant. This is the rule, this is the way. And when you think of it like that, the speed of light ceases to be a wall and begins to feel like something else. A keystone. Remove it and the arch collapses. Change it and everything collapses with it. You try to imagine a different universe, one where the speed of light is not fixed. Suppose in this strange place that signals could travel infinitely fast. You could look across the cosmos and see every star instantly, no delay, no 8-minute wait for the sun, no 4-year wait for Alpha Centauri. Space would no longer have depth. It would collapse into a flat simultaneity, everything visible at once. There would be no out there, only here. Now imagine a universe where the speed of light is slower, say the speed of sound. Every message would crawl. Every attempt to look outward would reveal only a faint echo of what had already passed. The sun's light would take years to reach you. Stars would glow faintly, their histories lagging behind. You would live always in a ghostly past, never in the present. And so you begin to see, the speed of light is not arbitrary, it is tuned. Not to satisfy your desires, but to weave a universe that is both stable and comprehensible. A universe where cause leads to effect, where history unfolds in order, where distance has meaning and time has direction. You linger on the paradox. The speed of light is impossibly fast, almost beyond imagination. Yet at the same time, it is the very thing that slows you down, that prevents you from leaping across the stars in an instant. It is both your liberator and your jailer. It makes vision possible, but it keeps exploration incomplete. It gives you the universe, but only piece by piece, never all at once. And perhaps that is why it frustrates you so deeply, because it feels like a promise half kept. The stars are there, visible, radiant, enticing. But to touch them, you must accept patience measured in centuries, millennia. Whole civilizations must rise and fall before the light years can be crossed. It makes you feel small. Not in the way a mountain makes you feel small, not in the way an ocean does, but small in time, small in possibility. You realize that the speed of light is not just a number, not just a measurement. It is the reason you will never see certain things. The reason vast portions of the universe will remain forever hidden from you, their light never reaching your eyes because the expansion of space outruns it. And there it is again, the edge, the horizon, a boundary so absolute that not even curiosity can cross it. Yet instead of despair you find something else emerging, a kind of awe, because the speed of light is not simply a denial. It is a story about balance, about a universe that chooses coherence over chaos, about rules that ensure there is a now and a later, a before and an after. Without that limit, there would be no rhythm to existence at all. Still, the human spirit resists. You imagine civilizations yet unborn, minds greater than yours, still confronting the same question. Could they find a loophole, a way to bend, to cheat, to twist the rule without breaking it? Could they build tunnels in spacetime, shortcuts that make distance irrelevant? Could they learn to surf on the fabric of reality instead of trying to run across it? These are not idle questions. They are the whispers of possibility, and they are the bridge between what you know now and what you may one day learn. For now, though, you return to the thought of light itself, a quiet photon leaving its birthplace in some distant galaxy, traveling undisturbed for billions of years. It carries with it the image of a place that may no longer exist, of a star that may have died long before Earth even formed. And yet here it is, striking your eye, telling its story. That story exists because nothing is faster, because no rival overtakes the photon, because it alone has the privilege of delivering the message at the exact pace the universe allows. The photon is the messenger, and the limit is the seal on its authority. And as you sink deeper into the thought, you realize the speed of light is not just about physics. It is about memory. It is about story. It is about the way the universe insists that you see the past before you can imagine the future. Nothing can surpass the speed of light, and in that fact lies both the frustration of distance and the beauty of perspective. Because without it, there would be no stars to wonder at, no history to uncover, no rhythm to measure your own heartbeat against. The limit is not just a ceiling. It is the frame of the picture, the structure of the song, the reason there is meaning at all. You lie with the thought a while longer, letting it deepen, letting it press into you. Light, fast beyond reason but not infinite, constant, unyielding, never to be surpassed. And you wonder again, what does it mean that the entire universe seems to bend itself around this number? That every clock, every ruler, every definition of time and distance must give way, just to preserve light's consistency. It is almost as though the cosmos has chosen a favorite child. Other forces flex. Other laws can be broken or at least bent under the right conditions. But not this one, not speed, not light. It brings to mind the strangeness of loyalty. Reality itself has sworn allegiance to this one truth. It will rearrange itself, distort itself, warp your very sense of what is real, all to keep light's pace untouched. That's unsettling, but also elegant. Because when you think about it, you realize this: the laws of nature do not exist for your convenience. They were not written to be intuitive, nor crafted to match human expectation. They simply are. The fact that light has a maximum speed is not meant to frustrate you. It is meant to keep the universe coherent. But coherence itself is slippery. The deeper you follow the thought, the less stable your everyday sense of reality feels. Take time, for example. You've always trusted it. Seconds, minutes, hours, all unfolding neatly in rhythm. You live your life inside that cadence, yet time itself is elastic. It slows, it stretches, it warps depending on speed, depending on gravity, depending on perspective. What you call a second may not be the same second for someone else. And why? Because of light. Because the universe has decided that its speed is untouchable, so everything else must yield instead. The sacrifice of time is the cost of light's constancy. And the sacrifice of space too, because distance is not fixed either. Distances contract and expand, shrinking for those who move faster, stretching for those who watch from afar. The ruler bends in your hand. The map redraws itself in flight. And all of it, every distortion, every warping of geometry, is in service of light. You think about how strange that is. How strange it feels to live in a reality where time is not universal, where distance is not objective, where the very fabric of existence is pliable, all because a single speed must remain constant. You might even call it unfair. If the cosmos were kind, wouldn't it let time be steady? Wouldn't it let space be consistent? Why sacrifice so much just to guard one number? But then again, perhaps fairness is not the right measure. Perhaps what matters is stability. Because without these distortions, without the bending and flexing, the universe would fracture. Events would no longer agree. Cause and effect would crumble. History itself might lose its order. And you realize light's limit is not about denying possibility. It's about ensuring coherence. Still, the human heart resists. You imagine standing on the deck of a spacecraft, watching galaxies slide past, yearning to press harder, to push faster, to beat the limit. Every instinct in you says it should be possible, that if you just had enough power, enough determination, you could break through. That instinct is not foolish, it is deeply human. The refusal to accept impossibility is what built ships, planes, rockets. It is what carved new worlds out of old fears. And yet here at this edge, the universe draws a line so absolute that no amount of defiance can cross it. That dissonance, the pull of your intuition against the stubbornness of nature, creates a tension. You feel it pressing against your chest. Because if you cannot break this rule, then you must instead learn to live inside it. You turn the question around. If nothing can surpass the speed of light, then what can? What remains open to you inside this ceiling? You think again of photons, not just beams of light but messengers from the dawn of time. Ancient cosmic radiation still traveling since the universe was young. Every star you see, every galaxy shining faintly in the night sky is a memory carried on the back of light. It cannot be overtaken, cannot be intercepted. And so every glimpse you have of the cosmos is delivered on light's terms, not yours. That realization is humbling. You cannot see the universe as it is, only as it was. Always delayed, always behind. Even the moon, so close, so familiar, is seen with a delay of a single heartbeat. The sun, 8 minutes, and the nearest stars, years, galaxies, millions of years. The light from some of them left before humans even existed, before Earth itself was more than molten stone. And yet, despite that delay, the light still arrives. It still tells its story. The stars may have burned out long ago, but their photons remain faithful messengers, still crossing the abyss, still reaching your eyes. So maybe the limit is not cruelty. Maybe it is gift. A way of ensuring that the universe tells its story slowly, piece by piece, instead of all at once. If you could see everything instantly, perhaps nothing would have meaning. It would be too much, too fast, too complete. The delay forces you to look back, to see history written in starlight, to remember that you are part of a long unfolding rather than an immediate spectacle. And maybe that slowness is the very thing that allows you to wonder. Because if everything were instant, there would be no mystery, no waiting, no longing, no sense of distance. But because light takes its time, you are given the chance to imagine, to anticipate, to reach. The universe has boundaries, yes, but those boundaries give you the horizon. They give you the unknown. They give you the longing that drives curiosity itself. You breathe with that thought slowly, gently. The frustration softens. The wall feels less like a prison and more like a horizon, a place to walk toward even if you can never step beyond. Still, the question remains. If light is the absolute, then what does it mean for time? What does it mean for causality? What happens as you push closer, closer, closer to that ultimate edge? The thought unsettles you again. Because if time bends for those who approach the speed of light, then the boundary is not just about distance, it is about existence, about what it means to live, to age, to move through the story of your own life. You are not ready to face that yet, not fully, but the thought is there waiting, the seed of it planted. For now you let the mystery rest. You let the photons keep running, tireless, unbroken, carrying the stories of stars. You let the speed of light remain what it is, untouchable, unquestionable, yet endlessly thought-provoking. And you sense, in the stillness, that the real strangeness has only begun to reveal itself. Because the rule is absolute, yet your intuition whispers it should not be. And it is in that gap, between what feels natural and what is true, that the deepest mysteries wait. You've trusted your intuition all your life. Drop something, it falls. Push something, it moves. Add speeds together and they pile up neatly. If a car races past at 50 miles per hour and you throw a ball forward at 10, you expect the ball to move at 60 relative to the ground. Simple, clean, common sense. But then comes light, and light refuses. Imagine yourself inside a spacecraft gliding through the darkness. Your engines hum, the stars drift, and you decide to shine a beam of light from the front window. Common sense says if you are moving forward, then the light you send ahead should move faster still. It should be your velocity plus its own, yet when you measure it, you find no such addition. The beam does not care that you are moving. It races away at the same speed it would have had you been still. Always the same number. Always 300 million meters per second. That discovery is not gentle. It is a wrecking ball to intuition. Because if speeds cannot be added in the way you expect, then something else must give. And what gives is space and time. You feel the strangeness wash over you. Because suddenly fast is not what you thought it was. Speed itself becomes relative. Time itself becomes negotiable. The ruler bends, the clock melts, and the order of your ordinary reasoning fails. This is the broken place, the place where instinct cannot follow. You try to reason it out. Suppose two people are in motion relative to each other. One shines a flashlight. Both measure the beam. Both record the same speed, even though they are moving differently. The only way this can be true is if their perceptions of time and distance are not the same. For one, seconds stretch longer. For the other, lengths contract shorter. The universe rearranges itself silently, invisibly, to preserve the constancy of light. You do not notice this bending in your daily life. At slow speeds near the surface of Earth, the distortions are minuscule, impossible to sense. But the closer you move toward the cosmic limit, the louder the strangeness becomes, until finally, near the edge, it dominates everything. And the implications are staggering. Time is no longer universal. There is no single now shared across the cosmos. Your present may not be someone else's. The idea of simultaneity, the comfort of believing two things can happen at once, crumbles. What is now for you may be later for me, and both of us are right. This is not a trick of perception. It is not illusion. It is reality itself, bent by the demand that light must remain the same for all. The universe, then, is not the neat, clockwork machine your instincts imagined. It is more like a fabric, stretching and folding in ways you were never taught to expect. You feel a kind of vertigo thinking about it. If time is pliable, then so is life. Imagine leaving Earth in a near-light-speed ship. To you, the journey lasts only a few years. But when you return, centuries may have passed. Your home would be gone, your world unrecognizable. You would have leapt forward in history, carried not by intention but by the unavoidable bending of time. Einstein called it time dilation. But to you, it feels less like a concept and more like a quiet betrayal of intuition, a reminder that reality cares nothing for your expectation. And then there is length contraction. At near-light speeds, distances shrink. The stars, which seemed impossibly far, begin to draw closer, not because you moved faster than light, but because space itself compressed along your path. The universe conspires to prevent you from ever breaking the speed limit, but in doing so it offers strange compensations. Time slows for you, space shrinks before you. The road is never what it seems. It's beautiful in its way, terrifying too, because it forces you to admit that what you trust most, your sense of reality, is unreliable. Your intuitions were forged in a narrow world, walking pace, running pace, the speed of horses, the speed of cars. The laws you thought were universal were merely local approximations. Beyond them lies something stranger, and light is the gatekeeper of that strangeness. You picture again that photon, steady, untouchable, indifferent to all who measure it. To protect its constancy, the universe twists time itself into a knot. And in that twisting, your natural sense of cause and effect, of simultaneity, of distance, is sacrificed. You cannot help but marvel at the irony. You wanted speed to be simple. You wanted to add numbers and keep moving faster. Instead, the pursuit of speed delivered you to a world where even time is negotiable, even space is elastic. The cost of light's untouchable pace is nothing less than the rewriting of reality. You let that sink in slowly, as though adjusting your eyes to a new kind of darkness. Because once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The everyday world feels thinner, more fragile. Clocks and rulers, once trusted, are now revealed as negotiable instruments, bending themselves to a deeper truth you can neither resist nor fully grasp. This is what it means to live in a relativistic universe. Not chaos, not madness, but something subtler. A quiet defiance of intuition, hidden beneath the ordinary, revealed only when you press against the edges. You wonder what it must have felt like, the first time this realization arrived in human thought. To look at the equations, to run the experiments, and to realize that centuries of certainty were wrong. That light was not just another speed, but the anchor of the cosmos itself. Perhaps it felt like standing on a cliff, watching the ground dissolve. The mind resists, it clings to common sense, and yet the evidence insists. And so intuition breaks, and from its shards something new emerges. Because in the breaking, a new kind of vision opens. You are no longer trapped by the idea that time is absolute, that space is fixed. You are free to imagine a universe where these things are flexible, interwoven, shaped by motion and gravity. A universe where the speed of light is not merely a number, but the very stitching of existence. Still, the unease remains. It should not be this way, and yet it is. You live inside the brokenness now, inside the strange reconciliation of intuition with truth. And as you let that thought settle, you begin to sense that this brokenness is not an obstacle. It is an invitation. Because to move forward in understanding, you must be willing to let go of what feels natural. You must allow your mind to stretch, just as time stretches, just as space contracts. You must accept that the world is stranger than you can believe, and that strangeness is the doorway to deeper beauty. Nothing can surpass the speed of light, and nothing about that truth is simple. Your mind lingers on the fracture, this gap between what feels natural and what is true. It is more than disorienting. It is unsettling in a deeper way, as though you are standing in a hall of mirrors, unable to tell which reflection belongs to you. Because the rules you trusted are gone, the idea that time is the same everywhere, that events unfold in a universal rhythm, is broken, and in its place a stranger truth, that what is now for you may not be now for someone else. That thought is more than abstract, it is personal. Imagine two people separated by light years watching the same pair of stars explode. One insists the left star died first, the other swears it was the right. Both are correct because simultaneity does not exist in the way you once believed. There is no cosmic referee to say who is right. There is no single order of events. Time itself is relative. That should not be possible, and yet here it is. The speed of light is the culprit, or perhaps the protector. By refusing to allow faster communication, faster motion, it ensures that no observer can cheat, no observer can override another's version of reality. The universe accepts all perspectives as long as none tries to outrun light. You sense the fragility of it, how delicately the system holds together, how one broken rule could unravel the whole tapestry. Because imagine for a moment if you could move faster than light, just a little faster. A signal sent, a message carried beyond the limit. In one frame of reference, the message would arrive after it was sent, but in another it could arrive before. Suddenly, cause and effect trade places, an effect without a cause that happens after its consequence. Your stomach turns at the thought, because if cause and effect can reverse, then meaning itself collapses. A world where messages can arrive before they are written is a world without logic, a place where contradictions are not rare but constant. A universe like that could not endure. And so the wall is built, the limit is enforced. Faster than light motion is forbidden not out of cruelty but out of necessity. Without the limit there is no order. Without the order there is no existence. Still the question gnaws at you. Why does it feel wrong? Why does the refusal of simultaneity feel like a betrayal of common sense? Perhaps because your life has always been lived at slow speeds in small domains. The everyday world is Newtonian. Clocks agree, rulers stay fixed, events have a clear order. You have grown accustomed to that simplicity. And when relativity tears it away, your instincts resist. But instincts were never meant for the stars. They were shaped by survival, not by cosmic truth. They whisper comfort, not accuracy. You must learn to doubt them. And so you return to the paradox, letting it settle into you like a splinter. Simultaneity is broken, time is elastic, distance contracts, and the root of it all is light, always light. You imagine again the photon, stubborn and indifferent. No matter who measures, no matter how they move, it delivers the same speed. To preserve that constancy, the universe must contort itself, twisting both time and space until intuition is no longer safe. And you cannot help but marvel, because what began as a simple question, why can't we go faster than light, has opened a chasm beneath your feet. It is not just speed at stake, it is reality itself. You picture a vast map, the kind of map a traveler might spread across a table, every dot a star, every line a distance. You imagine drawing a straight arrow across it, a shortcut faster than light. It feels so simple, so clean, but then you realize the map itself is unreliable. Distances are not fixed, lines are not straight, and the very notion of now is slippery. To draw a shortcut is to ignore the bending of the fabric itself. The map is alive, shifting, flexing, protecting its hidden symmetry. And that symmetry is beautiful in its own stern way, because relativity is not chaos. It is a pattern, an unyielding logic that sacrifices your intuition to preserve deeper coherence. The constancy of light is not negotiable, but everything else bends around it to make that constancy possible. You think of a pendulum swinging steadily. You think of a heartbeat pulsing rhythm. You think of the breath in your lungs, slow and quiet. All of them depend on a kind of consistency. If the rhythm breaks, the system collapses. Light is like that rhythm. A pulse, a steadiness, a constant beat around which everything else arranges itself. The universe needs its tempo, and so all else, time, space, simultaneity, surrenders so that the beat continues unbroken. It is humbling, isn't it? To realize that what feels like betrayal is actually protection, that what feels like a wall is also a foundation. And yet, humility does not erase the unease. You picture again the thought experiment, a spaceship traveling faster than light, a signal sent home arriving before it was launched. The pilot meets their own echo, a message from the future arriving in the past. Do they heed it? Do they change their course? And if they do, then the message was never sent, and yet it still arrived. A loop, a paradox, a knot in causality itself. You feel the headache of it, the dizziness of trying to untangle a contradiction that cannot be untangled. The only true resolution is prevention, and the prevention is simple: do not allow faster than light, ever. You exhale slowly. There is a kind of dark elegance in that. The universe knows how fragile causality is, so it forbids you from ever touching it. But this brings you to an even stranger thought. What if the speed of light is not the true limit, but the visible symptom of a deeper law? What if the universe's real command is not nothing goes faster than light, but something more subtle? Nothing may violate causality, and light is simply the maximum speed that preserves that order. You roll the thought in your mind like a stone. Perhaps the photon is not the law itself, but the messenger of the law. Its constancy is the outward face of something deeper, the logic of cause and effect, the preservation of story, the insistence that events unfold in a coherent chain. That thought is haunting, because it means the real limit is not physical but logical, not a ceiling you might break with a better engine, but a rule written into the grammar of existence. And grammar, once broken, ceases to be language at all. You feel the weight of that realization. Faster than light motion is not simply a challenge of engineering. It is a challenge to coherence itself. If it were possible, the universe would dissolve into contradiction, and contradiction cannot stand. Perhaps that is why intuition fails here, because intuition belongs to the surface, to the small, the local. It cannot reach the depth where logic itself is at stake. But reason can. Imagination can, and both point to the same truth. The speed of light is not merely a number, it is the guardrail that keeps reality from collapsing into nonsense. Still, you resist the finality of it. You cannot help but wonder if there is some other way. If speed itself is not the loophole, perhaps something else is. Bending space, folding time, opening shortcuts. But that is for later. For now, you sit with the fracture. You let your intuition remain broken, like a bone set crooked but healing into new shape. You accept reluctantly that the world is not what it seems, that simultaneity is illusion, that time is elastic, that distance is negotiable, all bent, all reshaped for the sake of one untouchable truth, light's constancy. It is strange, it is unsettling, but it is also the beginning of a deeper understanding. Because when intuition breaks, vision begins. You sit now in the tension between what you feel and what you know. Your instincts whisper one thing: time should be steady, space should be solid, simultaneity should be universal. But the universe whispers back more quietly, more insistently. No, your everyday sense of reality is local, provincial. It belongs to a world of slow speeds and weak gravity. A world of footsteps and heartbeats, not photons and black holes. But once you step beyond that familiar ground, intuition cracks, the rules bend. And light is the reason. You turn it over in your mind again. This one stubborn constant, refusing to change, refusing to yield, no matter how you move, no matter how you measure. The result is paradox upon paradox, strangeness upon strangeness. It begins with time. Time, the thing you trust most. It is no longer universal. Imagine twin siblings. One remains on Earth, the other boards a near-light-speed ship and sails outward away from the planet. For the traveler, days and weeks pass normally. Meals, dreams, thoughts, laughter. The rhythm of life feels unchanged. Yet upon returning home, the traveler discovers that decades have passed. The sibling who stayed behind has aged, while the traveler remains young. This is no thought experiment. It is the lived truth of relativity, proven in particle accelerators, in the clocks flown aboard planes, in satellites orbiting Earth. Time itself bends at speed. And that bending is not illusion. It is not trickery. Each sibling is correct in their experience. The difference is real, undeniable. Time itself has flowed differently for each of them. You let that sink in. Because if time can stretch and shrink depending on motion, then what is real time? Whose clock is the true one? The question has no answer. There is no master clock in the sky, no cosmic metronome to keep everyone in sync. Reality is fractured, and the fracture is permanent. That thought unsettles you more than you expected. Because deep down you want reality to be singular, shared. You want there to be one truth, one sequence, one measure. Without it you feel adrift, as though the floor beneath your feet has dissolved. But then you realize this fracture is not weakness, it is structure. The relativity of time is not chaos, but a new kind of order, deeper and more consistent than the illusions you trusted before. It is the price of light's constancy, and also the gift. Because without time dilation, without simultaneity breaking down, Light's speed could not remain steady for everyone. And if it did not remain steady, the laws of physics would unravel. The symmetry of the cosmos would collapse. The sacrifice of your intuition is the cost of coherence. Still, the strangeness deepens, because if time is not shared, then neither is now. You close your eyes and picture two events, say two lightning bolts striking different ends of a moving train. For a person standing on the platform, the bolts appear simultaneous. For the passenger on the train, one comes first, the other later. Who is right? Both are. Each has their own timeline, their own ordering of events, and no perspective is privileged. That thought is disorienting, because it means that the universe is not bound together by a single, universal now. There is no one slice of time shared by all. Each observer carries their own version of reality, stitched together by their own motion. The world you thought was singular is, in truth, a mosaic, a patchwork of perspectives, each equally valid, none absolute. This is what it means to live in relativity. Not one reality, but many. Not one time, but countless. You feel the vertigo of it, the sense that everything you took for granted, every second, every distance, every cause and effect, is softer, less stable, more fragile. And then comes the darkest paradox of all. Faster-than-light travel is not just forbidden, it is dangerous to even imagine. Because if you could move faster than light, you could stitch together these fractured timelines in ways that defy causality. You could send messages backward in time. You could shake hands with your past self. You could kill your own ancestor before you were born. The infamous paradoxes tumble out like stones. The grandfather paradox, the bootstrap paradox, loops and contradictions that refuse resolution. They are not puzzles to be solved, they are warnings, signs that reality itself cannot tolerate such violation. The speed of light is not merely a limit, it is a firewall, a protection against the unraveling of cause and effect, a guardrail keeping the road from twisting into a knot. And you begin to sense why the rule is enforced so absolutely, because it is not a rule about speed at all. It is a rule about logic, about coherence, about ensuring that the story of the universe has a direction, a sequence, a meaning. Without it, existence would collapse into paradox. You exhale slowly, the weight of it presses against you, the beauty, the terror, the strangeness. Because you realize that the universe is not intuitive, it is not designed to feel comfortable, it is designed to be consistent, and consistency requires sacrifice. It requires that time be relative, that simultaneity fail, that space bend, that intuition break. You think of how fragile it all seems, how easily the whole structure could dissolve were the limit not absolute. And yet here it stands, unyielding, constant for billions of years, across billions of galaxies. Light steady as a heartbeat, light indifferent as stone, light the runner no one can outrun. It is not arbitrary, it is the foundation. But still, you wonder. If reality bends so willingly to protect light's constancy, then what else might it bend for? If the laws can stretch, distort, give way, then perhaps there are deeper possibilities still hidden from you. Perhaps the universe has more strange protections, more hidden symmetries waiting to be uncovered. This broken intuition, then, is not the end. It is the beginning. Because once you accept that your instincts fail, you are free. Free to imagine more. Free to ask new questions. Free to explore the edges where reality bends in ways you have not yet conceived. You close your eyes and in the darkness you see the faint image of the cosmos. Galaxies wheeling, stars exploding, light streaming across the void. All of it obeying the same limit, the same constancy, the same law. And you understand the limit is not a cage. It is a frame. The universe paints within it, and the painting is vast, beautiful, terrifying, and true. Nothing can surpass the speed of light. And in that broken truth lies the doorway to everything else. It is one thing to hear the claim that nothing can surpass the speed of light. It is another to see the evidence, to hold it in your hands, to know that the universe itself enforces the rule. Because doubt is natural, you want proof. You want the reassurance that this is not some abstract decree, not a philosopher's speculation, but a truth carved into the fabric of reality. And so you turn to the story of how we discovered it. It begins not with Einstein, not with relativity, but earlier, with the suspicion that light must travel through something. After all, every wave, water, sound, vibration, requires a medium. Water for ripples, air for sound, string for vibration. And so scientists of the 19th century assumed the same must be true for light. There must be an invisible substance filling the cosmos, a kind of cosmic ocean through which light rippled. They called it the luminiferous ether. The ether was elegant in theory. It explained why light could move through the vacuum of space. It provided a stage, a reference frame, a background against which motion could be measured. And so the search began to prove its existence. In 1887, two men, Albert Michelson and Edward Morley, set up an experiment that seemed destined to succeed. Their goal was simple: detect Earth's motion through the ether. If light traveled through this medium, then the speed of light should appear different depending on whether Earth was moving with or against the flow of the ether. Much like a swimmer moving with or against a river's current, the speed should change depending on direction. They built a device called an interferometer. It split a beam of light into two, sent the beams along perpendicular paths, then brought them back together. If one beam moved faster than the other, their recombination would reveal a shift, an interference pattern. It was brilliant, precise, sensitive enough to detect the smallest difference. Surely it would prove the existence of the ether. But it did not. The result was null. No matter how Earth moved, no matter the season, no matter the orientation, the speed of light remained constant. The experiment failed to find any trace of the ether. This was not the result they wanted. It was confusing, frustrating. The ether was supposed to be there. Without it, how could light move at all? Without it, how could motion be absolute? But the universe does not bend to human expectation. The null result of Michelson-Morley was not a failure. It was a revelation. It whispered the first hint of a deeper truth. Light requires no medium. Light carries its own constancy. Still, the implications were too strange to accept at once. For years, scientists tried to patch the theory, to save the ether with increasingly elaborate explanations. But the cracks were widening. The evidence was stubborn. And then came Einstein. In 1905, with his special theory of relativity, he made the leap others had resisted. What if there is no ether at all? What if the speed of light is the same for all observers, no matter how they move? Instead of bending light to fit the old rules, Einstein bent the rules themselves. Space and time were not absolute. They were elastic, yielding, adjusting to preserve the constancy of light. It was radical, counterintuitive, and yet it explained everything. The Michelson-Morley experiment was not a failure, it was a door. From that moment forward, the evidence began to stack. Particle accelerators became laboratories of relativity. Take a simple example, muons. These subatomic particles are born high in the atmosphere when cosmic rays strike. They are unstable, living only microseconds before decaying. By all common sense, they should never reach Earth's surface. Their lifespan is too short, their speed too limited. And yet detectors at sea level find them in abundance. Why? Because at near light speeds, time slows for the muons. Their internal clocks tick more slowly. They live long enough to reach the ground. Their survival is not a trick. It is relativity made visible. In laboratories, the same effect is measured. Muons and other particles whipped around accelerators live far longer than they would at rest. The faster they move, the slower their clocks. The predictions of relativity match perfectly. And it is not just in exotic experiments. You live inside relativity every day without noticing. Take GPS, the constellation of satellites orbiting Earth. Each one carries an atomic clock precise to billionths of a second, but without correction those clocks would drift. The satellites moving fast experience time differently. Their clocks tick slower than those on the ground. At the same time, Earth's gravity slows time on the surface compared to the altitude of the satellites. Both effects must be calculated and corrected. If they weren't, your GPS would fail within minutes. Your phone would tell you you're miles from where you are. Relativity is not theory, it is infrastructure. Every time you find your way on a map, every time a signal reaches you from orbit, you are living inside the proof that light's limit is real. You pause on that thought, because it means that the rule is not just an idea. It is a lived reality woven into the world you move through every day. Every photon that strikes your eye, every signal that guides your path, every particle racing through the cosmos, each one testifies to the same truth: nothing can surpass the speed of light. And yet the strangeness of it does not fade, it grows. Because every experiment, every observation forces you to abandon the comfort of intuition. The evidence insists that the universe is stranger than you want it to be. You think again of the Michelson-Morley experiment, of the quiet failure that became a revelation. Imagine the frustration of those men, watching the interference patterns remain steady, no matter how they tried to tilt or twist their instrument. They were hunting for motion through an ocean that was not there. They had built a net to catch water in a desert of air. And yet without that failure, the doorway might never have opened. Without that null result, Einstein's leap might not have landed. It is a humbling thought that sometimes the greatest discoveries come not from what you find. The evidence is clear. The speed of light is not just fast, it is absolute, unyielding, and the universe rearranges itself to protect that fact. But the story is not over, because evidence does more than confirm rules. It also opens cracks of possibility, and in those cracks new questions grow. You begin to wonder, if the speed of light is so absolute, then what does that mean for the edge of the observable universe? For the light that will never reach you, for the places beyond the horizon, forever hidden by the stubborn limit of speed. The experiments prove the rule, but they also leave you staring at its consequences, a universe vast beyond measure, yet largely invisible. And that realization stirs something else, not just understanding but longing. Because the evidence does not only tell you what is true, it also reminds you of what you will never reach. It is one thing to hear the claim that nothing can surpass the speed of light. It is another to see the evidence, to hold it in your hands, to know that the universe itself enforces the rule. Because doubt is natural, you want proof. You want the reassurance that this is not some abstract decree, not a philosopher's speculation, but a truth carved into the fabric of reality. And so you turn to the story of how we discovered it. It begins not with Einstein, not with relativity, but earlier, with the suspicion that light must travel through something. After all, every wave, water, sound, vibration, requires a medium. Water for ripples, air for sound, string for vibration. And so scientists of the 19th century assumed the same must be true for light. There must be an invisible substance filling the cosmos, a kind of cosmic ocean through which light rippled. They called it the luminiferous ether. The ether was elegant in theory. It explained why light could move through the vacuum of space. It provided a stage, a reference frame, a background against which motion could be measured. And so the search began to prove its existence. In 1887, two men, Albert Michelson and Edward Morley, set up an experiment that seemed destined to succeed. Their goal was simple: detect Earth's motion through the ether. If light traveled through this medium, then the speed of light should appear different depending on whether Earth was moving with or against the flow of the ether. Much like a swimmer moving with or against a river's current, the speed should change depending on direction. They built a device called an interferometer. It split a beam of light into two, sent the beams along perpendicular paths, then brought them back together. If one beam moved faster than the other, their recombination would reveal a shift, an interference pattern. It was brilliant, precise, sensitive enough to detect the smallest difference. Surely it would prove the existence of the ether. But it did not. The result was null. No matter how Earth moved, no matter the season, no matter the orientation, the speed of light remained constant. The experiment failed to find any trace of the ether. This was not the result they wanted. It was confusing, frustrating. The ether was supposed to be there. Without it, how could light move at all? Without it, how could motion be absolute? But the universe does not bend to human expectation. The null result of Michelson-Morley was not a failure. It was a revelation. It whispered the first hint of a deeper truth. Light requires no medium. Light carries its own constancy. Still, the implications were too strange to accept at once. For years, scientists tried to patch the theory to save the ether with increasingly elaborate explanations, but the cracks were widening, the evidence was stubborn. And then came Einstein. In 1905, with his special theory of relativity, he made the leap others had resisted. What if there is no ether at all? What if the speed of light is the same for all observers, no matter how they move? Instead of bending light to fit the old rules, Einstein bent the rules themselves. Space and time were not absolute. They were elastic, yielding, adjusting to preserve the constancy of light. It was radical, counterintuitive, and yet it explained everything. The Michelson-Morley experiment was not a failure, it was a door. From that moment forward, the evidence began to stack. Particle accelerators became laboratories of relativity. Take a simple example, muons. These subatomic particles are born high in the atmosphere when cosmic rays strike. They are unstable, living only microseconds before decaying. By all common sense, they should never reach Earth's surface. Their lifespan is too short, their speed too limited. And yet detectors at sea level find them in abundance. Why? Because at near light speeds, time slows for the muons. Their internal clocks tick more slowly. They live long enough to reach the ground. Their survival is not a trick, it is relativity made visible. In laboratories, the same effect is measured. Muons and other particles whipped around accelerators live far longer than they would at rest. The faster they move, the slower their clocks. The predictions of relativity match perfectly, and it is not just in exotic experiments. You live inside relativity every day without noticing. Take GPS, the constellation of satellites orbiting Earth. Each one carries an atomic clock precise to billionths of a second, but without correction those clocks would drift. The satellites moving fast experience time differently. Their clocks tick slower than those on the ground. At the same time, Earth's gravity slows time on the surface compared to the altitude of the satellites. Both effects must be calculated and corrected. If they weren't, your GPS would fail within minutes. Your phone would tell you you're miles from where you are. Relativity is not theory, it is infrastructure. Every time you find your way on a map, every time a signal reaches you from orbit, you are living inside the proof that light's limit is real. You pause on that thought, because it means that the rule is not just an idea, it is a lived reality woven into the world you move through every day. Every photon that strikes your eye, every signal that guides your path, every particle racing through the cosmos, each one testifies to the same truth. Nothing can surpass the speed of light. And yet the strangeness of it does not fade, it grows. Because every experiment, every observation forces you to abandon the comfort of intuition. The evidence insists that the universe is stranger than you want it to be. You think again of the Michelson-Morley experiment, of the quiet failure that became a revelation. Imagine the frustration of those men, watching the interference patterns remain steady, no matter how they tried to tilt or twist their instrument. They were hunting for motion through an ocean that was not there. They had built a net to catch water in a desert of air. And yet without that failure, the doorway might never have opened. Without that null result, Einstein's leap might not have landed. It is a humbling thought, that sometimes the greatest discoveries come not from what you find. The evidence is clear. The speed of light is not just fast, it is absolute, unyielding, and the universe rearranges itself to protect that fact. But the story is not over, because evidence does more than confirm rules. It also opens cracks of possibility, and in those cracks new questions grow. You begin to wonder, if the speed of light is so absolute, then what does that mean for the edge of the observable universe? For the light that will never reach you, for the places beyond the horizon, forever hidden by the stubborn limit of speed. The experiments prove the rule, but they also leave you staring at its consequences, a universe vast beyond measure, yet largely invisible. And that realization stirs something else, not just understanding but longing. Because the evidence does not only tell you what is true, it also reminds you of what you will never reach. The story of evidence does not stop with one experiment or even a handful. It has become a chorus, 1,000 confirmations repeating the same refrain. Nothing surpasses the speed of light. Each experiment, each measurement, is a note in that chorus. Together they form a song so unshakable, so precise, that the only honest response is awe. You think again of time dilation, the way it stretches and shrinks depending on motion. It is no longer a thought experiment, not even just the survival of muons in the upper atmosphere. It is measured here on Earth with clocks you can hold in your hand. In 1971, two men, Joseph Haefel and Richard Keating, placed atomic clocks aboard commercial airliners and flew them around the world, once eastward, once westward. When the planes landed, the clocks no longer agreed with those left on the ground. The difference was small, measured in nanoseconds, but exactly what relativity predicted. Think about that for a moment. Tiny, invisible slippages of time written into the gears of the universe, exposed not in theory but in practice. The planes flew, the clocks ticked, and reality itself flexed to the demands of light's constancy. The pattern repeats in orbit. Satellites circling Earth, their speeds high enough and their altitude far enough that relativity cannot be ignored. Their clocks tick differently from ours. Engineers who build GPS must account for both special relativity, the speed effect, and general relativity, the gravity effect. Without those corrections, the system would collapse. Within a single day, positions would be off by kilometers. Within a week, chaos. And yet, by acknowledging relativity, by bowing to light's limit, GPS becomes precise. Pinpoint. You can find your way home, navigate oceans, land planes, all because engineers accepted that nothing can surpass the speed of light. Proof is not always grand. Sometimes it is quiet, hidden in the tools you use without thinking. Every time your phone locates you on a map, relativity is at work. Every time a signal bounces from Earth to a satellite and back, the delay measured, corrected, is written by the constancy of light. The evidence grows larger still, stretching beyond Earth into the cosmos. Think of the 1919 solar eclipse, when Arthur Eddington and his team pointed telescopes toward the darkened sun. They were not looking for light itself, but for its bending. Einstein had predicted that massive bodies curve spacetime, and that light, though massless, must follow that curve. During the eclipse, when the sun's glare was hidden, stars near its edge were observed to shift position. Their light had bent around the sun exactly as relativity demanded. It was the first dramatic proof, the moment Einstein's theory stepped out of paper and into the sky. Headlines declared the triumph, but beyond the spectacle, it was yet another confirmation. Light plays by rules that cannot be broken. It cannot outrun the fabric it travels through. It bends because space bends. It obeys the geometry written by mass and energy. You feel the scale of it. Tiny particles, fragile clocks, massive stars, all agreeing, all pointing to the same truth. And then you think of cosmic rays again, those high-energy visitors from distant galaxies. They slam into Earth's atmosphere at speeds so close to light that the difference is negligible. And yet, no matter how violent, no matter how energetic, none ever surpass it. Particle accelerators, too, have tried. They push electrons and protons to near-light velocities, pouring energy into them, spinning them around colossal rings. The particles grow heavier, more resistant, but never faster than light. The energy does not translate into speed, but into mass. The closer they approach the limit, the harder it becomes. The barrier is asymptotic, unreachable. You begin to see why the evidence is overwhelming. It is not one thread, but many, woven into a fabric. A failed ether experiment, slowing clocks, stretching space, bending light, particle accelerators, GPS signals, cosmic rays. Each alone might be doubted, explained away. Together they form a wall of proof. And the wall does more than confirm the limit. It shapes the way you see reality. Because you cannot unlearn what these experiments reveal. You cannot return to a world where time is universal, where space is absolute, where simultaneity is unquestioned. The evidence has broken your intuition, and in its place it has built something sturdier, stranger, and more profound. It is not always easy to accept. There is a stubbornness in the human heart, a longing for simplicity, a wish that the world obey common sense, but the universe is not simple. It is not built to comfort you. It is built to endure, and its endurance rests on laws deeper than your instincts. Light is one of those laws. Its constancy is not negotiable, and the evidence makes that clear. But the evidence also teases you with consequences. Take the cosmic speed limit and apply it to distance. Light from the sun takes 8 minutes to reach you. Light from Proxima Centauri takes 4 years. Light from Andromeda takes over 2 million. Beyond that, galaxies so distant their light has traveled billions of years to arrive, and most are so far that their light will never reach you at all. The expansion of space outruns it. The horizon recedes faster than photons can cross. The speed of light does not only limit motion, it limits knowledge. It defines how much of the universe you can see and how much will remain forever hidden. That thought is both crushing and beautiful. Crushing because you must accept that most of reality lies beyond your reach. Beautiful because it reminds you how precious each photon truly is. Every ray of starlight is a survivor, a messenger, a fragment of history delivered against impossible odds. The evidence teaches you humility. It reminds you that the universe is vast, indifferent, bound by rules you can't. And yet within those rules there is still wonder, still discovery, still light arriving, telling stories older than Earth itself. You close your eyes and think again of the chorus. Michelson and Morley, their null result. Einstein scribbling equations, Haefel and Keating flying clocks around the globe. Eddington waiting for the shadow of the moon, engineers calibrating satellites, physicists accelerating particles, all of them adding their notes to the same song. The refrain is clear. Nothing surpasses the speed of light. And the harmony of it is overwhelming. Not just a scientific truth, but a human, a story of curiosity, persistence, failure, correction, revelation. Proof built not in a single moment, but in a century of striving. And still, the song is not finished. Each experiment answers a question but raises another. Each proof confirms the rule but hints at mysteries hidden within. You are left with a paradox of feeling, pure because the evidence is overwhelming, restless because the evidence points to horizons you can never cross. Light always light, limit always limit. And you realize this is what it means to live inside science, to hold both certainty and longing at once, to know the rule is unbreakable and still to dream of what lies beyond. The evidence is no longer confined to laboratories or even to satellites orbiting Earth. It stretches across the cosmos itself. Because if the speed of light is absolute, then the universe should bear its mark everywhere. Not just in equations or experiments, but in the very shapes of galaxies, the arcs of stars, the shadows of black holes. And it does. You think first of gravitational lensing, the bending of light by mass. The prediction was daring, that light, though weightless, must still follow the curves of spacetime carved by matter. When Einstein proposed it, it sounded absurd. How could light, the very symbol of straightness, the very messenger of sight, be bent? And yet, the cosmos confirmed it. In 1919, the eclipse revealed it first. Stars that should have appeared in one place were shifted, their light bent around the darkened sun. Photographic plates caught the evidence. The shift was small but undeniable. It was not a trick of the telescope. It was the universe showing its hand. Light obeys gravity not because it has mass, but because spacetime itself bends. Since then, the effect has been seen everywhere. Galaxies in the deep sky act as lenses, their mass bending light from even more distant galaxies behind them. The result is arcs and rings, distorted images painted across the heavens. Astronomers call them Einstein rings, elegant circles of bent light that prove again and again the strange obedience of photons. You pause to picture it. Entire galaxies acting as lenses, the fabric of reality itself curving so strongly that light, racing at its ultimate speed, cannot help but bow. This is evidence written not in laboratories but in the sky itself, proof drawn across billions of light years. And then there are black holes, the ultimate demonstration of light's limit. Imagine a star collapsing under its own gravity, crushing tighter and tighter until escape becomes impossible. At first, rocks, gas, even particles cannot flee. But then comes the final boundary, the event horizon, the point at which not even light can escape. This is the meaning of a black hole, not darkness but limit. A place where the fabric of spacetime curves so steeply that even the fastest thing in existence, the untouchable photon, cannot climb out. It is humbling to think of it. The speed of light, so constant, so absolute, is not fast enough here. It meets its match not in something faster but in gravity itself. the warping of space and time into a pit so deep that light's path turns inward, trapped. For decades, black holes were theory, but now they are seen, not directly but by their fingerprints, by the X-rays of matter heated as it spirals inward, by the dance of stars orbiting invisible points whipping around at impossible speeds, by the first image of a black hole's shadow captured in 2019, a glowing ring of light bent and trapped around the void. The evidence is undeniable. Black holes exist, and their very existence is proof of the speed limit, proof that the cosmos enforces its rules even in the most extreme corners. You let the thought expand further. If light cannot escape a black hole, then the horizon is absolute. Anything that crosses it is sealed away, its story cut from the universe you can see. The event horizon is a boundary not just of matter but of knowledge, a limit imposed not only on travel but on understanding. This too is the speed of light at work, because the horizon is defined not by mass or size alone, but by the inability of light to outrun the gravity within. A black hole is, in essence, a monument to the cosmic speed limit, and the universe is filled with them, billions, billions, every galaxy believed to harbor one at its heart, vast engines of gravity sculpting the structures around them. Light's limit does not just govern motion, it sculpts the architecture of the cosmos, but the evidence stretches further still, into the very shape of the universe. The cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang, is frozen proof of light's reach. For 13.8 billion years, photons have traveled, stretched by the expansion of space, cooled into microwaves, carrying with them the memory of the universe's infancy. They are everywhere, in every direction, a faint glow that confirms not only the universe's origin, but the constancy of light along the way. Every telescope tuned to this background hears the same song, a hiss, a whisper, a memory. Without light's consistency, that message would be chaos. The fact that it arrives, clear and coherent, is proof that the universe has obeyed its speed limit since the beginning. And then there is the horizon, the edge of the observable universe. Not a wall, not a surface, but a limit defined by light. We cannot see further than the distance light has had time to travel since the Big Bang. Beyond that horizon lies more universe, perhaps infinitely more, but hidden forever. This is not speculation, it is consequence. Light's speed writes the boundaries of sight, of knowledge, of reach. The cosmos itself is framed by this one limit. You think about how strange that is. The most constant, reliable thing in the universe is also the thing that prevents you from seeing most of it. It both illuminates and hides. It both reveals and denies. And so the evidence does more than convince you. It shapes your imagination. It teaches you how to think about reality itself. The bending of starlight, the shadows of black holes, the glow of the background, all of them say the same thing. The universe is not infinite in your eyes. It is bounded by speed. And yet within that boundary it reveals itself with beauty and precision. The speed of light is not just a number, it is the scaffold on which the cosmos is built. Without it there would be no horizons, no order, no meaning. The laws of physics would lose their rhythm, their coherence. And so, as you trace the evidence across scales, from interferometers to satellites, from particles to galaxies, you begin to sense something deeper. The speed limit is not just a rule. It is the thread that ties reality together. It humbles you. It frustrates you. But it also steadies you. Because in a universe of chaos, one thing is constant. In a universe of change, one thing endures. Light, always light. And now you realize the question is no longer whether the limit is real. The evidence is overwhelming. The question is what it means. What it implies for your place in the cosmos, your understanding of time, your dream of traveling among the stars. The evidence convinces, but it also leaves you with longing, a longing sharpened by the knowledge that the rules are firm and the horizons unyielding. And yet, in that longing, there is beauty, because the very limits that deny you are the same ones that make the universe possible. Nothing surpasses the speed of light. And the universe itself is the evidence. The evidence has been gathered. From fragile clocks flown on airplanes to beams of starlight bent around suns, to the faint glow of the universe's beginning, it all points in the same direction. The speed of light is absolute. But proof alone is not the end of the story. Evidence does not only convince, it transforms. It forces you to see differently, to think differently, to live differently. Because if nothing can surpass the speed of light, then every corner of existence is shaped by that fact. Not only the movement of particles, not only the bending of space-time, but the rhythm of life, the structure of memory, the possibility of communication. You begin with something simple, the way information travels. At its core, communication is nothing but the movement of signals. Light, radio waves, electromagnetic pulses. Even sound at its most fundamental is just matter jostling matter, and all of these are bound by speed. Imagine a universe without such a limit, a world where signals could travel instantly. Every word you spoke would be heard everywhere at once. Every action would be known in the same moment across infinite distance. There would be no delay, no separation, no waiting. At first it sounds appealing. No more 8-minute wait for sunlight, no more centuries between question and answer across the stars. But think carefully, without delay there is no distance. Without distance there is no cause and effect. If information can jump instantly, then events lose their order. You could receive a message before it was sent. You could answer a question before it was asked. Reality would collapse into paradox. The delay is not a flaw. It is the reason the story of the universe makes sense. You think of Earth orbiting the Sun, bound to it by gravity. For centuries, people assumed gravity acted instantly, reaching across space with no delay. But if that were true, the system would be unstable. Orbits would wobble. Motion would contradict itself. The finite speed of gravity, no faster than light, keeps the dance consistent. It ensures that cause and effect unfold in order. The speed of light does not only limit, it preserves. It is the safeguard of logic itself. And yet, the same delay shapes life in ways more subtle. Think of vision. Every sight you have is mediated by light's travel. When you look at a friend across a room, you are not seeing them as they are, but as they were a fraction of a moment ago. When you look at the moon, you see it 1 second in the past. The sun, 8 minutes in the past. Distant stars, centuries. Galaxies, millions of years. You are never seeing the present, always the past. Always through the filter of light's finite speed. This should feel disorienting, but in a way it is comforting, because the delay gives depth, it gives history. It means that when you look at the night sky, you are not just seeing points of light, you are seeing stories carried faithfully across time. Light is memory, and its limit ensures that memory has shape. You lean into that thought. Every photon that strikes your eye is a traveler, ancient and untouchable. It carries with it the trace of an event, a burning star, a dying galaxy, the echo of a beginning. Without the speed limit, that memory would collapse. The past and the present would blur into one. But because of the limit, you live in a layered universe. A place where time unfolds, where history matters, where stories can be told. The evidence is not only about physics, it is about narrative. The speed of light is what allows there to be a sequence at all. And then there is life itself. On Earth, processes unfold at finite speeds. Neurons fire, signals pass along axons, muscles contract. If signals traveled infinitely fast, every system would be flooded, overwhelmed. The body would collapse under its own chaos. The finite speed of light ensures that even within you there is rhythm. Cause leads to effect. One event follows another. Life is not possible without delay. Consciousness is not possible without sequence. The very thing that frustrates your dreams of faster travel is also the thing that gives you the chance to dream at all. You picture the experiments again. Michelson and Morley's interferometer, silent and precise. Haefel and Keating's clocks ticking differently in the sky. The bending of starlight, the arcs of galaxies, the glow of the background, all of it testifying to the same law. And now you see that law not as a cage, but as a foundation. The reason clocks can exist, the reason orbits can endure, the reason memory can persist. Nothing surpasses the speed of light, because if anything did, the universe would lose its coherence. You let the weight of that realization settle. It is more than proof. It is more than theory. It is the reason you are here, breathing, thinking, waiting. And still the evidence provokes longing. because knowing the rule is absolute does not erase the desire to cross it. You imagine ships reaching for the stars, civilizations dreaming of shortcuts. You imagine messages leaping instantly across galaxies, conversations held between worlds without delay. The evidence says no, and yet the longing remains. Perhaps that is the strange balance of science, to know and to long, to accept the rule and still imagine its undoing, to gather evidence until the truth is undeniable and still let your heart whisper, "What if?" You breathe with that tension. It is not contradiction, it is humanity. The evidence is complete, the experiments agree, the cosmos agrees, nothing can surpass the speed of light. But acceptance is not the same as surrender. The longing persists, the questions persist, the horizon persists. And maybe that is the deeper gift of the evidence, not only to confirm the rule, but to sharpen the questions that follow it. You close your eyes and imagine the photons again, steady, obedient, racing through darkness. They are proof, they are memory, they are horizon. And you know, because of them, that the universe is coherent, ordered, beautiful, and vast beyond reach. The speed of light is the rule. The evidence is overwhelming. And yet within that rule you find both security and mystery. Nothing surpasses it, nothing breaks it. And because of that, everything else becomes possible. The evidence is overwhelming. The chorus is unanimous. Nothing can surpass the speed of light. And yet your mind resists. It does not matter how many experiments are stacked, how many proofs are offered. There is something in you that whispers, maybe there is a way. Maybe the rule is not absolute but only appears so from where you stand. This is not foolishness. It is the pulse of curiosity itself, to question, to wonder, to imagine. Because history has taught you this, every limit once thought permanent has eventually cracked. The sound barrier, the ocean floor, the moon, each was declared impossible until it was. And so the human mind refuses to rest, even in the face of overwhelming evidence. It asks, what if? And that question leads you into the counter cases. The whispers of loopholes, the stories of speed beyond light, the speculations of science and myth alike. You begin with the oldest dream, instantaneous travel. It has haunted human imagination for centuries. Tales of teleportation, magic doors, enchanted mirrors. The desire to vanish here and appear there, skipping the in-between. In the modern age, the dream has been given new clothes. Transporters in fiction, wormholes in theory, quantum teleportation in laboratories. Each carries the same hope, that perhaps distance is not as stubborn as it seems, that perhaps the wall of light speed can be bypassed not by outrunning it, but by stepping around it. And then there is the temptation of tachyons, hypothetical particles imagined in the mathematics of relativity itself. Unlike normal matter, which slows as it approaches light speed, tachyons were proposed to move faster the less energy they carried. Their very existence would imply a realm beyond the limit, a place where superluminal motion was natural. But tachyons have never been found. No experiment has revealed them. They remain phantoms, useful in equations, tantalizing in thought but absent in reality. Still, their possibility lingers. What if there are particles that break the rule, unseen, unreachable to us? You think of quantum entanglement, another crack in the wall. Two particles once linked seem to share information instantly, no matter the distance between them. Measure one and the other reflects the result in the same moment. Einstein himself called it spooky action at a distance. It feels like faster-than-light communication. It feels like the wall has been breached. But here, too, the universe is careful. The correlations are real, but no information travels faster than light. No signal can be sent through entanglement alone. The rule remains, though the edges shimmer with mystery. And then, more dramatic still, comes the idea of warping space itself. If you cannot outrun light, perhaps you can bend the road. Imagine compressing the space in front of you, stretching the space behind you, riding a bubble of warped spacetime itself. This is the Alcubierre drive, a concept pulled from Einstein's equations. Within the bubble, you would not move faster than light, but the bubble could carry you across distances faster than light would normally allow. It is beautiful in theory, terrifying in practice. The energy required is astronomical, greater than the mass of stars. And worse, the drive demands negative energy, exotic matter not known to exist in usable form. For now, it remains fantasy. But it is a fantasy rooted in mathematics, not magic, and that is enough to keep the dream alive. You linger on wormholes, another doorway offered by relativity itself. Solutions to Einstein's equations suggest that spacetime can fold upon itself, connecting distant regions through a tunnel. Enter one mouth, emerge from the other, skipping the in-between. To an outside observer, you have traveled faster than light. To you, you have simply taken a shortcut. But wormholes, if they exist, are unstable. They collapse before anything can pass through. They demand negative energy like the Alcubierre drive. They tease with possibility, then close their doors. Still, they remain in the realm of theory, not yet banished to impossibility. And so the imagination returns to them again and again, refusing to let go. You realize with a kind of quiet amusement that humans are relentless creatures. Show them a wall and they will not only push against it, they will try to tunnel under, leap over, bend it, trick it. The speed of light is the greatest wall of all, and so it inspires the most persistent dreams. But those dreams are not just science, they are myth, story, longing. Think of how often faster-than-light travel appears in fiction. Starships leaping across galaxies, wormholes navigated like highways, warp drives humming with possibility. It is more than entertainment. It is the echo of desire, the refusal to accept distance, the yearning to make the universe intimate, immediate. And you feel that yearning yourself. It is not enough to know that the stars are there. You want to touch them. You want to cross the vastness not in millennia but in lifetimes. You want to belong to a universe that feels close. The counter cases speak to that desire. They whisper that maybe, just maybe, the rule can be bent. But you also sense the danger in them. Because if the rule were broken, if the wall fell, then everything else would unravel. Causality would collapse, logic would fracture, the story of the universe would turn incoherent. And so you live in paradox, longing for what you cannot have, imagining loopholes that may never exist, dreaming of shortcuts that might destroy the very order that makes dreaming possible. It is a fragile balance, hope on one side, law on the other. The counter cases remind you that science is not only about certainty, it is also about curiosity, about the willingness to ask questions even of walls that seem absolute, because sometimes impossibility yields, sometimes limits reveal themselves to be illusions, and even when they do not, the act of questioning leads to deeper understanding. Perhaps that is the real role of the counter cases, not to break the rule but to sharpen it, to force you to see why the limit matters, why it cannot fall without the world collapsing with it. You sit with that thought, the evidence convinced you, the counter cases tempt you, and somewhere between them lies the strange beauty of science itself, the interplay of certainty and imagination, of proof and possibility. Nothing surpasses the speed of light. And yet, you cannot help but dream of what it would mean if something did. You have walked along the wall long enough to know its strength. The evidence piles up, the chorus of experiments is undeniable, and yet the whisper persists, what if? What if the wall is not absolute, but only appears so because you stand too close to it? What if the speed of light is not the true boundary, but a curtain hiding deeper paths behind it? This is the temptation of faster-than-light thought, not just to dream of travel, but to ask what lies beyond the forbidden horizon. And here, paradoxes rise like warning signs. Take the classic thought experiment of sending a message faster than light. Imagine two observers, each racing in opposite directions. If one sends a superluminal signal, the other might receive it before it was sent, depending on their frame of reference. Suddenly, cause and effect are reversed. The future bleeds into the past. The chain of logic loops on itself. And once you allow one loop, the whole structure unravels. A signal could create its own sender. A cause could erase itself, a paradox without resolution. Physicists treat these loops with caution, not as curiosities, but as signs that something is broken. They are the red lights of reality, flashing to remind you, this road cannot be traveled. But imagination is stubborn. It lingers in the forbidden. You think of time travel, another child of these paradoxes. If faster-than-light communication is possible, then so is sending messages backward. If messages backward, then objects. If objects, then people. A traveler stepping into their own past. The stories bloom from here, paradoxes dressed as plots. A person warned of their own death and thus avoiding it and thus erasing the warning. A person delivering an invention to their younger self, creating a loop where the invention has no origin. A person killing their ancestor, undoing their own existence. The mind delights in these puzzles, spinning them endlessly. But the deeper you look, the more you sense the danger. These are not just stories, they are logical fractures. They reveal that faster than light is not just about speed, it is about coherence, about whether reality itself can tell a consistent story. And yet, the temptation remains, because fiction, unconcerned with paradox, leaps freely across the wall. Ships warp across galaxies, wormholes open like doorways. Entire civilizations move in a universe where faster than light is not only possible but routine. Distances shrink, delays vanish, worlds feel close, intimate, communication is immediate, exploration is within reach. It is seductive because the real universe with its light-speed wall feels isolating. Stars separated by lifetimes, galaxies by eternities. A cosmos vast enough to make you feel small, silent, alone. Fiction offers relief, it offers intimacy, it offers a universe where longing does not stretch across centuries but can be answered in moments. And in that seduction, you feel the pull of two truths at once. One, faster than light is impossible, because it shatters causality. Two, faster than light is irresistible, because it answers the deepest human yearning, to belong to the universe, not just a corner of it. This is why the counter cases matter, not because they are likely, but because they reveal the hunger beneath the science. The hunger for connection, for intimacy with the stars, for freedom from the slow tyranny of distance. But even within science, the whispers linger. Quantum entanglement, tachyons, wormholes, warp drives, each one a mirage that tempts you forward, then dissolves when you reach for it, each one showing just enough possibility to keep the dream alive, but never enough to break the rule. Physicists debate them not as practical engines, but as ways to test the edges of understanding. Could entanglement be used to send signals? No, but why not? Could tachyons exist in some hidden layer of the universe? Maybe, but if they did, what would that mean for causality? Could spacetime be warped, folded, tunneled? Perhaps in theory, but what energy could ever make it real? The questions themselves are valuable. Even if the answers are no, they sharpen the shape of the rule. They reveal why light is constant, why speed is limited, why reality is coherent. Still, the allure of breaking the rule is not purely scientific, it is existential. You think of how life feels under the wall. Every star you see is a relic of the past. Every signal you send crawls slowly outward, never to be answered in your lifetime. Exploration is measured in centuries, not journeys. Civilizations may rise and fall without ever touching one another. The wall is not just a law of physics, it is a veil of isolation. Faster than light is the fantasy of tearing the veil away. And so, even knowing the paradoxes, you linger on the dream. Imagine just for a moment that the rule could be broken. A ship leaping across light years in hours, entire galaxies opening themselves to you, conversations held across the stars without delay. Humanity expanding, not cautiously, not slowly, but explosively, spreading in decades instead of millennia. The dream glows bright, intoxicating, and then you imagine the darker side. A weapon fired faster than light, striking before it was launched. A war where battles are fought backward in time, each side erasing the other before the first shot. A universe collapsing under the weight of contradiction. The dream and the nightmare are inseparable. Faster than light is freedom, faster than light is chaos. You feel the pull of both, the longing and the fear, the temptation and the warning. Perhaps this is why the universe is so stern. Perhaps this is why the wall is enforced so absolutely. Because the cost of breaking it is not just paradox, it is annihilation of coherence itself. Still, the human heart is restless. It does not care for walls even when they are necessary. It dreams, it invents, it tells stories of shortcuts and miracles, it cannot help itself. The counter cases then are not failures. They are mirrors showing you both your hunger and your limits. They reveal the deep tension of being human, to live in a universe with rules and yet to long endlessly for what lies beyond them. Nothing surpasses the speed of light, and yet you cannot stop imagining what it would mean if something did. The wall stands taller. The experiments, the proofs, the cosmos itself all reinforce it. And yet you find yourself circling back to the same question. If the wall is so absolute, why do the equations of physics sometimes seem to hint at ways around it? This is the strange duality of science. On one side, evidence says no. On the other, theory whispers maybe. You begin with wormholes. The idea is as old as relativity itself. Einstein and his collaborator Nathan Rosen first described them in 1935. Tunnels through spacetime, connecting distant regions like shortcuts. Step into one mouth, emerge from the other. To the outside world you have traveled faster than light. But to you no rule was broken, you simply walked through a passage. It is an intoxicating idea and not without teeth. The mathematics works, at least in principle. General relativity allows such tunnels. Spacetime can be curved not only into pits like black holes but into bridges. And yet the obstacles rise immediately. Wormholes, if they exist, are unstable. They collapse faster than anything can pass through. To hold one open would require negative energy, exotic matter with properties unlike anything you have ever observed. Without it, the tunnel pinches shut, sealing both ends. Negative energy is not fantasy. It appears in certain quantum effects, like the Casimir force between plates. But to scale it, to build a stable wormhole large enough for travel, the requirements spiral into the absurd. More energy than stars could provide. Matter with properties alien to all known physics. Still, the fact remains, the equations do not forbid wormholes. They only demand a price you cannot yet pay, and that is enough to keep the dream alive. From wormholes, your thoughts drift to warp drives. In 1994, physicist Miguel Alcubierre proposed a solution rooted in relativity itself. Instead of moving faster than light, why not move space? Contract the space ahead, expand the space behind, and ride the bubble as it carries you forward. Within the bubble, you never break the rule. To an outside observer, though, you arrive faster than light could have carried you. Again, the mathematics is sound. Space-time is flexible. It can be stretched, bent, folded. The warp bubble is no contradiction. It is a logical consequence of relativity's pliability. And again, the price is devastating. To build such a bubble requires exotic matter, negative energy on a scale unimaginable. Worse, it raises paradoxes of its own, horizons within the bubble that trap information, causal structures that may hide violations you cannot see. It is as though the universe teases you with possibility, then slams the door shut. But still, the ideas linger. They linger because they feel like loopholes, cracks in the armor of the wall. If wormholes and warp drives are mathematically possible, then perhaps the limit is not as absolute as it seems. Perhaps it is only absolute in practice, not in principle. The line between the two is thin, but meaningful. You pause on that distinction, absolute in practice. That phrase carries weight, because for you, for human civilization, the difference is irrelevant. Whether wormholes are impossible or simply impractical beyond imagining, the result is the same. You will not walk through one. You will not ride a warp bubble. And yet, there is something beautiful in the thought that the universe allows them in principle, even if it denies them in practice. That within the laws themselves, there is still room for imagination, even if not for action. The counter cases are not promises, they are provocations. They ask you to imagine what it would mean if the wall could be bent, and you realize this is the role they play. They are not pathways to faster travel. They are mirrors held up to the limit itself, showing why it is necessary, what it protects, what it costs. Because if wormholes were real, cause and effect would tremble. If warp drives were practical, paradoxes would lurk within their horizons. If tachyons raced through space, information would run backward, logic would unravel. The loopholes reveal why the law must stand. Still, your heart resists, because the longing is not only scientific, it is existential. Imagine Earth without horizons. Imagine looking at the night sky and knowing that you could reach those stars not in centuries, but in years. Imagine messages leaping across galaxies, civilizations speaking across the void, the universe not as a vast silence but as a crowded conversation. It is irresistible, and so the human mind keeps inventing stories. Faster than light travel fills books and films, shaping imaginations as powerfully as any experiment. Warp drives, hyperdrives, slipstreams, stargates, each one an attempt to dissolve the wall to make the universe intimate, knowable, alive. The irony is sharp. Fiction thrives on faster than light, even as reality forbids it. Perhaps this is why the wall feels so cruel. It denies the story you most want to tell. But perhaps the wall is what makes the story possible. Because longing is born of distance, wonder is born of separation. The stars shine not only because they are far, but because they cannot be reached. If they were easy, they would not be sacred. The wall preserves the mystery. It ensures that the universe remains vast enough to inspire awe. You feel the paradox of it again. The very thing you resist is the thing that makes your resistance meaningful. The wall frustrates you, but it also gives you the horizon to walk toward, the dream to keep alive. And so the counter cases become less about breaking the rule and more about reminding you why the rule matters. They are thought experiments, not blueprints. They are exercises in imagination, not engineering. They sharpen your sense of what reality is by showing what reality would collapse into without its guardrails. Nothing surpasses the speed of light, but in imagining what it would mean if something could, you glimpse the fragility of coherence, the necessity of order, the beauty of limits. The wall is not arbitrary, it is the shape of the story itself. And yet you keep dreaming, you cannot help it. Because to be human is to live between two truths, the acceptance of limits and the refusal to stop imagining beyond them. The wall has been tested in every way you can imagine. Through equations, through experiments, through dreams disguised as science fiction. And still it stands. But before you leave the realm of speculation, you pause in the strangest corners, where the human mind has pushed hardest, where imagination collides with paradox. Here lie the time machines. If faster than light travel is possible, then time machines are not just imaginable, they are inevitable. Because relativity ties speed to time, causality to velocity. Break the barrier and loops appear. Effects precede causes. The arrow of time, so steady in your life, curls back upon itself. Physicists have wrestled with this possibility, not only in stories but in equations. Solutions to Einstein's field equations sometimes allow closed time-like curves, paths through spacetime that loop back to their starting point. A traveler along such a curve would meet their own past, their own decisions, their own footprints. At first, it seems like a curiosity. But the paradoxes arrive swiftly. The grandfather paradox. A traveler goes back in time and prevents their ancestor's existence. But without the ancestor, the traveler cannot exist to make the journey. Contradiction. The bootstrap paradox. A traveler brings back a piece of information, say the blueprint of an invention. They give it to their younger self who builds it and one day travels back to deliver it again. Where did the invention come from? From nowhere, from the loop itself. A creation without origin, knowledge without source. The mind delights in these puzzles, but reality does not. The paradoxes reveal fragility. They show that if the wall were broken, coherence would vanish. Some physicists have tried to soften the blow. The Novikov self-consistency principle suggests that paradoxes resolve themselves, that time resists contradiction, forcing events to unfold in ways that avoid inconsistency. In this view, you may travel back, but you cannot change what has already happened. You are trapped in the loop of consistency. Others propose the many worlds interpretation. Every paradox creates a branching universe. Kill your ancestor, and you do not erase yourself. You merely shift into a timeline where you were never born, while your original history continues untouched. These interpretations are clever, elegant even, but they carry their own strangeness. If time travel creates infinite universes, what does it mean to exist in one? If paradoxes always resolve, then do you truly have freedom? Or are you bound by a hidden chain tighter than the one you thought you broke? And so even here the wall asserts itself. Faster than light means time travel means paradox, paradox means incoherence, the chain is clear. The counter cases are not only dangerous, they are recursive. They circle back to the same conclusion. The wall is not optional, it is necessary. Still, the human mind lingers on the edges. What about wormholes stabilized with exotic matter? What about cosmic strings, hypothetical defects in spacetime left over from the Big Bang, whose immense density could bend paths into shortcuts? What about quantum gravity, a theory not yet written that might reconcile relativity with the quantum world and reveal new freedoms? Speculation thrives where knowledge ends, and for now, knowledge ends at the wall. But the deeper you wander into these speculations, the more you realize something humbling. Every imagined loophole only sharpens the necessity of the limit. The wall is not arbitrary, it is not fragile. It is woven into the very grammar of existence. And yet, even as you accept that, you recognize the importance of these exercises. The counter cases matter, not because they are practical, but because they reveal the edges of understanding. By imagining what would happen if the wall were broken, you learn why it must not be. It is a strange kind of education, learning through impossibility. You picture the great paradoxes again, a message arriving before it was sent, a traveler erasing their own cause, a loop of knowledge with no origin. They are not just curiosities, they are warnings. They show what reality would collapse into if the rule were not absolute. Nothing surpasses the speed of light, because if anything did, coherence itself would fall. The wall protects not just physics, but meaning. And yet you cannot help but feel the pull of the dreams. The starships of fiction leaping between suns, the wormholes of theory glittering shortcuts through the dark, the whispers of tachyons, entanglement, warp bubbles, each one a reminder of human restlessness, of the refusal to stop imagining. Perhaps that is the truest counter case of all, not a loophole in physics, but a loophole in spirit. You may never outrun light, but you will never stop imagining what it would mean if you could. And maybe that is the deeper point. The wall is absolute, but your curiosity is not. The rule stands, but your imagination leaps beyond it. The paradoxes show the danger, but the longing shows your humanity. Science lives between those poles, certainty and wonder, law and imagination, evidence and dream. You take a breath and feel the balance of it. On one side, the stern necessity of light's constancy. On the other, the endless whispers of possibility. Together, they form the rhythm of inquiry itself. The counter cases do not break the wall, they illuminate it. They show why it stands, why it must stand, and why you will always dream of scaling it anyway. And now, as you prepare to leave this realm of speculation, you feel the weight of transition. The setup is done, the intuition has broken, the evidence has been stacked, the counter cases have been explored. What remains is synthesis. To take all of it, the rule, the paradoxes, the proofs, the dreams, and see what it means, not only for physics, but for you, for your place in the story of a universe that insists on light's constancy. The wall remains, but beyond it lies understanding. You have walked along the wall. You have seen it from every angle, felt the fracture of your intuition, gathered the chorus of evidence, lingered in the dangerous beauty of counter cases. And still, the wall remains. Now comes the harder part, not proof, not speculation, but meaning. What does it mean that nothing can surpass the speed of light? The question is not only physical, it is existential, because the limit does not just govern particles and galaxies, it governs you, your sight, your time, your history, your place in the cosmos. You begin by turning inward. Every breath you take is lit by photons. Every thought you form is carried by electrical signals that at their root obey the same ceiling. Your experience of reality, the colors of dawn, the glow of a lamp, the shimmer of stars comes to you through light, and light comes with delay. It is humbling. You have never seen the present, only the past, always the past, even in the smallest moments. The person across the table, the flicker of their expression, you see it a fraction of a moment late. The world you think of as now is always already gone. The speed of light is not only a ceiling, It is a filter, a distance woven into perception itself. And perhaps that is the first synthesis. The limit is not out there in distant stars. It is here in your very eyes, in the way you live inside delay without even realizing it. Then you turn outward. The wall is the reason horizons exist, the reason the universe has edges, the reason there are places you cannot see, cannot know, cannot touch. It defines the observable universe, the shell of light that has had time to reach you since the beginning. Beyond it lies more reality, perhaps infinitely more, but forever hidden. It is strange, isn't it? The most constant thing in the cosmos is also the most limiting. Light both reveals and conceals. It is your messenger and your jailer. It brings you the stars, but not all of them. It paints the sky, but with a brush that reaches only so far. And yet the limit does more than restrict. It gives structure. Imagine a universe without the wall, a place where signals were instant. There would be no horizons, no distance, no delay. Everything would collapse into simultaneity. You would see every star as it is in this moment, but you would lose the depth of time. The night sky would flatten into a single frame, all history erased, all memory dissolved. Or imagine a universe where the limit was slower, where light crawled at the speed of sound. The stars would vanish. The sun itself would lag centuries behind. You would live in a haze of delay so thick that cause and effect could barely be trusted. It is only here at this exact ceiling that the universe holds together. Not too fast, not too slow, but just enough to preserve both memory and coherence. The speed of light is not arbitrary, it is tuned. Perhaps not for you, not for life, not for comfort, but tuned for stability, for meaning, for the possibility of a story. This is the second synthesis. The wall is not only a limit, it is a foundation. And then you turn again to the paradoxes you explored before. Tachyons, wormholes, warp drives, each one seemed to tempt to seduce. Each one hinted at a loophole, but every loophole circled back to paradox. Every shortcut threatened coherence. The synthesis here is sharp. The wall is necessary. Without it, cause and effect would collapse. Without it, logic would dissolve. Without it, there would be no order, no time, no narrative at all. You realize now that the speed of light is not only a rule of motion, it is the guardian of meaning itself, the protector of sequence, the defender of story. It is not a law imposed from the outside, it is the shape of reality itself. And you, caught between longing and acceptance, begin to sense the deeper balance. Because yes, the wall frustrates you. It denies you intimacy with the stars. It seals most of the universe beyond your reach. It forces you to live within delay, within isolation, within boundaries you cannot cross. But at the same time, it gives you the possibility of wonder. Without the wall, there would be no horizon to long for, no mystery to imagine, no story to tell. Without the wall, the universe would not be a vast journey, but a flat instant. The frustration and the wonder are two sides of the same truth. The wall is what makes the longing meaningful. And perhaps that is the deepest synthesis. The speed of light is not your enemy, it is your companion. The tension between desire and denial is the very thing that makes you human. You sit with that thought, breathing into it. The science sharpens into philosophy. The equations soften into poetry. The wall, so absolute, so frustrating, becomes something else, a mirror. It reflects your limits, yes, but also your imagination. It shows you what you cannot do, but also what you most long to do. It denies you, but in doing so, it defines you. Because to be human is to live with limits, and to live with limits is to dream of breaking. You imagine again the photons racing through darkness. They cannot be overtaken, they cannot be surpassed, but without them you would see nothing. Without them you would know nothing. Without them you would not even be here to wonder. The wall is not cruelty, it is the condition for being. And once you see that, you realize, the story of light speed is not about frustration. It is about belonging. You belong to a universe that is coherent, ordered, bound together by laws that ensure there can be history, memory, time, story. You belong to a cosmos vast enough to inspire wonder but structured enough to sustain meaning. Nothing can surpass the speed of light, and that is why everything else can exist at all. This is synthesis, not acceptance alone, not longing alone, but both held together. The wall is real, and so is your desire to cross it. The rule is absolute, and so is your imagination of its undoing. To live between them is not contradiction, it is life. You exhale slowly. The wall feels less like a prison now, more like a horizon, something to walk toward even if you never reach it, something to shape your dreams even if it never yields. And maybe that is enough. Maybe the purpose of a wall is not to be broken, but to make you walk farther than you otherwise would, to make you imagine harder, question deeper, long more fiercely. In that sense, the speed of light is not an obstacle. It is an invitation to curiosity, to wonder, to humility, to... And as you rest with that thought, you realize that the story is not finished, because synthesis is not resolution. It is only a pause, a gathering of threads before the next question. And the next question is this: if the wall is absolute, what does that mean for the shape of the future, for the dream of exploration, for the open loops of meaning that the universe refuses to close? You sit with the wall a little longer, not as a denial now, but as a mirror. You see yourself in it, your limits, your longing, your restless refusal to accept. Because the speed of light is not only a law of physics, it is a measure of the human condition. You live inside a universe vast beyond comprehension, and yet you are bound to one small planet, one fragile world. The wall of light ensures that most of the cosmos will remain out of reach, at least for you, for your children, for generations beyond number. And so the wall becomes more than science. It becomes metaphor. It becomes the shape of your own life. Every person has horizons they cannot cross, moments they cannot reclaim, futures they cannot reach. The wall of light is only the cosmic version of the limits you already live with. And perhaps that is why it resonates so deeply. It is not just about physics, it is about mortality, about the fact that you will never see everything, never know everything, never go everywhere. The speed of light is a reminder that to exist is to live with boundaries. But here too comes the synthesis, because limits are not only barriers, they are frames. Without them, nothing would have shape. Without them, life would have no urgency, no meaning. Without them, the stars would not be beautiful, only accessible. Without them, longing would not exist. The wall sharpens your desire, and desire sharpens your vision. You imagine again the stars scattered across the night sky, each one burning in its own silence, sending photons across light years, across millennia. You know you will never reach most of them. You know their light will always arrive with delay, and yet that delay does not diminish them, it magnifies them. Each photon becomes a gift, a message from a distance you cannot close. The speed of light ensures that wonder remains, that mystery remains, that the night sky is not just a place but a story written across time. And perhaps this is what the wall means for exploration. Exploration has never been about reaching everything. It has always been about reaching farther than before, crossing oceans, climbing mountains, orbiting worlds. Each step feels like a conquest, but in truth it is only an approach. The horizon always recedes, the wall always waits. And yet the approach itself matters, the striving matters. Exploration is not about finality. It is about motion, about the act of reaching even when you know you will never touch the ultimate edge. In this way, the speed of light is not a denial of exploration, it is its essence. It ensures there will always be more to reach for, always another horizon, always another impossibility to imagine. Without it, the story would end. With it, the story continues forever. You let that realization deepen. The wall is not the end of curiosity. It is the guarantee that curiosity will never be exhausted. And you think again of the dreams that cling to the edges, wormholes, warp drives, shortcuts through space-time. Perhaps they will never be real. Perhaps they are mirages, but even as mirages, they serve a purpose. They show that imagination remains unbroken, that even when the wall is absolute, you do not stop dreaming of how to climb it. The wall shapes not only science but story. It gives birth to myths of faster-than-light travel, to tales of cosmic journeys, to the visions of futures where distance is dissolved. These stories may never come true, but they matter. They matter because they reveal what you long for most: connection across the void. And in that longing, there is meaning. Because the truth is, you are already faster than you realize. Not in your machines, not in your ships, but in your thoughts. Your mind leaps light years in an instant. Your imagination walks galaxies without delay. In dreaming, you break the wall every night. And maybe that is enough. Maybe the purpose of the wall is not to be crossed physically, but to force you to cross it inwardly. To stretch your imagination farther than your body could ever go. To create stories that reach where your ships cannot. The speed of light becomes then not a limit of the human spirit, but the fuel of it. It keeps you restless, it keeps you dreaming, it keeps you awake under the stars, asking questions that will never be finished. And here is the paradox of synthesis. The wall denies you, and in denying you, it gives you more than you could have otherwise. It gives you mystery, wonder, longing, story. It gives you a universe not only vast, but meaningful. You think of explorers again, not only of space, but of every frontier. None of them reached the final edge, all of them lived within limits, and yet their journeys were real, their discoveries profound. The wall of light is only the final horizon, the one you will never cross, but the approach toward it is endless, and that approach is what gives life shape. You let the silence settle around you. The wall is there, unyielding, but it does not feel cruel now. It feels like a horizon, a boundary that defines the landscape of existence. Without it, there would be no path, no journey, no meaning. And perhaps this is what the wall of light truly means. You are not here to conquer the universe. You are here to belong to it, to walk toward horizons you cannot reach, to live inside a story that is never finished. You exhale slowly, almost relieved, because the wall, in the end, is not something to be fought. It is something to be understood, to be accepted, to be cherished even. It ensures that the universe is not only coherent, but wondrous. Nothing surpasses the speed of light. And yet everything you are, your longing, your dreaming, your questioning, arises from that very fact. The wall defines the universe, and in doing so it defines you. The wall of light is more than physics. It is also time. Because when you look closely, the two are inseparable. The speed of light is not only about how fast something moves, it is about how time itself is allowed to unfold. Without the wall, time would lose its arrow. Without the wall, memory and causality would dissolve. You begin to feel this in a personal way. Every heartbeat is bound to the same law that binds photons. Your life moves forward because time moves forward, because light defines the rhythm of cause and effect. Without that ceiling, there would be no sequence, no before and after, no story at all. The speed of light is not just the guardrail of physics, it is the tempo of existence. And perhaps that is why thinking about it stirs such unease. Because to reflect on the speed of light is, in some hidden way, to reflect on mortality, on the fact that your time, like your motion, is bounded. You will never outrun the horizon, you will never see everything. This is not cruelty, it is structure. Imagine if life had no limit, if time could be bent without consequence. You could skip into your own future, return to your own past, rearrange the order of your story. It sounds like freedom, but it is only confusion. If everything could happen at once, then nothing would matter. Without order, there is no meaning. Your mortality, like the speed of light, is not arbitrary. It is the condition for a story. A life without end would have no urgency. A life without sequence would have no shape. The wall of light and the wall of death are mirrors of each other. Both remind you that limits are the frame of meaning. You pause with that thought, letting its weight settle. When you gaze at the stars, you are looking into the past. You see the Milky Way as it was thousands of years ago, galaxies as they were millions. In a very real sense, you are surrounded by ghosts, light carrying memories across impossible distances. And so the night sky is not just a view, it is a memorial. The stars you see may already be gone, their fire extinguished ages ago. Yet their photons continue, faithful messengers, arriving long after their sources have vanished. This is the gift of the wall. Light's slowness makes memory possible. If photons traveled infinitely fast, you would see only the present. History would be erased, the past invisible. The universe would be shallow, flat, stripped of depth. Instead, you live in a layered cosmos. Every glance upward is a journey through time. Every star is an archive. Every beam of light is a letter written long ago, finally arriving. Your mortality resonates with this. Your own memories are not instant either. They are carried forward through neurons, through traces, through fragile sequences in your brain. They take time to form, time to recall, time to fade. You live in delay, not only cosmically but personally. And perhaps that is the deeper connection. You are made of delay. You are not an instant. You are a sequence. The speed of light reminds you of this truth again and again. Still there is longing. You cannot help it. The longing to outrun delay, to see the universe as it is, not as it was, to touch the present of distant galaxies instead of their ghosts, to move faster than memory, faster than mortality, faster than the wall itself. And yet perhaps you do not need to, because in memory lies beauty. The delay gives you perspective. It lets you see the universe not only as a place but as a story. When you look at the sky, you are not cheated, you are enriched. You are witnessing history unfolding in fragments carried by light. You are part of a narrative bigger than yourself. And that is what mortality too provides: a story, a sequence, a frame. You realize then that the wall of light and the wall of death are not denials. They are invitations. They ask you to pay attention, to notice that your moments are finite and therefore precious, to notice that the photons arriving in your eyes have traveled lifetimes and therefore deserve wonder. Limits create value. Without them, nothing would matter. The synthesis sharpens here. The wall of light is not the enemy of life. It is the reason life has meaning at all. But there is one more layer. Because if the speed of light defines time, then it also defines the future. It tells you what can be reached, what cannot, what may forever remain beyond. It sets the scale of destiny itself. You imagine again humanity's dream of the stars. Even if ships can never outrun light, they can approach it. Time dilation becomes a kind of gift. Travelers may journey centuries into the future in a single lifetime, their clocks slowed by their speed. They may not cross the wall, but they may ride its edge, surfing along the distortion of time. And so the wall is not only a denial, it is also a path, a strange, narrow path, but a path nonetheless. It offers possibilities within its boundaries, possibilities stranger than your intuition ever imagined. You think again of the twin paradox of the traveler who returns younger than their sibling. It feels like science fiction, but it is real. It has been measured in particles, in clocks, in satellites. The wall forbids one kind of motion, but in doing so it permits another, travel not across space but into time. Mortality and delay remain, but the shape of the future is not closed. It bends, it stretches, it opens in ways you cannot yet fully grasp. And that too is meaning. The wall defines not only what is impossible, but what is possible in unexpected forms. You breathe into that realization. The wall of light, the wall of mortality, the wall of time, all of them stand. And yet within their standing there is freedom. Not the freedom to break them, but the freedom to imagine, to explore, to live meaningfully within their frame. The synthesis is complete now. Limits are not enemies. They are the architecture of existence. The speed of light is not denial. It is the reason there is a story at all. And so you find yourself less restless, not because the longing has gone, it never will, but because you see its place. The longing itself is shaped by the wall, just as the stars. Beauty is shaped by delay, just as your life's meaning is shaped by mortality. Nothing surpasses the speed of light. And because of that, everything you know, memory, sequence, meaning, story, is possible. The wall of light has been with you since the beginning. It defined the dawn of science. The first telescopes pointed at the stars, the experiments with mirrors and clocks, the equations scribbled on chalkboards. It defined the stories of physics, and now it defines the stories of your life. But what about the stories still unwritten? What about the future? What does it mean to live as a species under this law, knowing that the universe will not yield, that the wall will not break, that the horizon will always retreat faster than you can chase it? The answer is both sobering and strangely hopeful, because if the speed of light is the ceiling, then the future of humanity is shaped not by conquering it, but by living within it. And what emerges from that is not despair, but a deeper creativity. You imagine the centuries ahead. Ships will fly faster and faster, pushing ever closer to the wall. They will not break it, but they will press against it, and in pressing, time will bend. Travelers may journey for decades, only to return to a home centuries older than when they left. Time dilation will turn voyages into acts of one-way migration, not across space alone, but across eras. The wall of light ensures that exploration is not only about distance, it is also about time. And perhaps that is the future's great revelation, that to journey among the stars is to journey into history itself. A traveler who leaves may never return to the world they knew. Their voyage will be less about conquering distance and more about stepping out of one time and into another. The wall makes space travel into time travel, not backward but forward, not into paradox but into future possibility. You let yourself imagine that. Whole generations born under alien skies, not because faster than light made it easy, but because the wall made it hard. Colonies separated not just by space, but by centuries of divergence. Humanity spreading not as one continuous wave, but as scattered islands of time. It will be slow, painfully slow, measured in lifetimes and millennia, not days or weeks, but it will happen, because the longing is too deep to be denied. And the wall, though it resists, does not erase that longing, it sharpens it. It forces patience, resilience, persistence. It ensures that if humanity spreads, it will do so with gravity, with weight, with story. But the wall shapes not only exploration, it shapes art. Think of how often the stars appear in poetry, in music, in paintings. Always distant, always unreachable, always a metaphor for longing. If the wall were not there, the stars would not carry that meaning. They would be destinations, not symbols. Their beauty lies in their remoteness, in the silence between you and them. The speed of light makes the night sky into a canvas for the imagination. You project your hopes, your fears, your dreams onto the unreachable. You write stories of faster-than-light travel, not to break the wall, but to express what it feels like to live under it. The wall creates myth, and myth creates meaning. And then there is philosophy. The speed of light forces you to confront limits in a way few other laws do. Gravity you can resist, electricity you can harness, chemistry you can manipulate, but light's limit is unyielding, it will not bend, and so it becomes a mirror for the human condition itself, the reminder that you are finite, that there are boundaries you cannot cross. Some will resist this. They will rage against the wall, insisting that it must be broken someday. Others will romanticize it, finding beauty in the horizon, humility in the delay. Still others will take it as metaphor. Each person's life has its own speed of light, its own horizon of possibility, its own limits that must be accepted even as they are challenged. In this way, physics becomes philosophy, and philosophy becomes personal. The wall of light does not only shape how you build your machines, it shapes how you think about yourself, how you think about your future, how you think about what it means to live meaningfully within limits. And there is something quietly liberating in that. Because once you accept that not all walls are meant to be broken, you can begin to see what they offer instead. The wall of light offers mystery. It ensures that most of the universe remains unknown, inviting wonder without end. It offers coherence. It ensures that time has direction, that cause leads to effect, that stories unfold. It offers humility. It reminds you that you are small, not master of all, but participant in something larger than you. And it offers longing. It ensures that the stars will always be just beyond reach, always enough to keep your imagination alive. You realize then that the wall is not simply an obstacle to the future. It is the shape of the future itself. Humanity will not race across the stars like characters in fiction. It will creep, slowly, patiently, pressing against the wall, bending time as it does. The wall will force you to savor each step, to value each fragment of progress. It will make exploration harder and therefore richer. And perhaps this is the truest synthesis of all. The wall does not diminish the future, it defines it. The speed of light ensures that exploration is not trivial, that knowledge is not instant, that wonder is not exhausted. It ensures that the universe remains vast enough to inspire not only technology, but philosophy, art, story. You breathe slowly with this realization. The wall remains unyielding, but you no longer see it as cruel, you see it as essential. The reason there is future at all. Because without limits, there would be nothing left to reach for. Without horizons, there would be no journey. Without delay, there would be no meaning. The wall of light is the universe's way of ensuring that longing survives, and in that longing you find your place. Nothing surpasses the speed of light, and yet everything worth living for, wonder, memory, story, hope, surpasses the need to. The future will not be about breaking the wall, it will be about walking with it, building within it, imagining beyond it, even if imagination is the only place where the wall can be crossed. And maybe that is enough, maybe that is more than enough. Because to live under the wall is to live in a universe that still inspires you, still humbles you, still keeps you awake at night, staring at the stars, asking questions you will never finish. And that is not failure, that is the very definition of meaning. You have walked far with this thought. From the fracture of intuition, through the chorus of experiments, across the dreamlike terrain of counter cases, into the quiet acceptance of synthesis. You have come to see the wall of light not as an enemy, but as a frame, not as denial, but as definition. And yet questions remain, because no matter how carefully you reason, no matter how firmly the evidence stands, the mystery is not gone. The wall is real, but what does it mean that it is real? What does it mean that the universe, vast and ancient, is stitched together by a speed? That there is a ceiling built into the very logic of existence, a number against which all motion must fail? You find yourself circling back to wonder. Why this speed? Why not another? Why 299,792,458 meters per second? Precise, unwavering, woven into every photon, every particle, every corner of spacetime. The number feels arbitrary, it could have been anything, faster, slower, and yet it is this, exactly this. If it was slower, the universe might collapse before it had time to form stars. If it were faster, perhaps structures would never cohere, galaxies never condense. Life, as you know it, depends on this balance. Is the speed of light tuned, then, in some deep way? A constant not only of physics, but of possibility. And if so, what does that say about the nature of the cosmos? Is it accident, necessity, or something beyond either word? You linger here because the question has no answer. And the lack of answer is not failure, it is the essence of wonder. You think again of horizons, the cosmic edge, the event horizon, the horizon of your own life, each one defined by the speed of light. Each one a limit that shapes not only what you can do, but what you can know. The edge of the observable universe is not a wall of matter, not a structure to be crossed. It is a horizon of knowledge, a place where light has not yet reached you. Beyond it, the universe continues, perhaps infinitely, but you will never see it, you will never know it. Is that cruelty or gift? To live in a universe that hides most of itself, that conceals the majority of its story behind a veil of light's delay. To live forever in a partial view, always incomplete, always uncertain. You feel the tug of humility. To be human is to live in ignorance, but not a useless ignorance, a fertile one, the kind that makes you question, imagine, build, dream, the kind that keeps the story alive. And what of the event horizon, the black hole's edge? A boundary drawn not by walls but by speed. Light itself cannot escape, meaning cannot escape, knowledge cannot escape. When something crosses, you lose it, not because it ceases to exist, but because the wall of light has closed the door between you and it. Does that mean it is gone? Or does it mean the universe has simply hidden it, locked it away where you cannot follow? You do not know, no one does, perhaps no one ever will. Again, the wall is not only law, it is mystery. It is the line between the known and the unknowable. And then there is your own horizon, mortality, a speed limit not of photons but of breath, a horizon not of space but of time. You will never see beyond it. You will never know what lies past your own end. And here, too, the question rises, is it cruelty or gift? To live knowing there is a boundary you cannot cross. To live within a story that ends, no matter how much you wish it did not. The wall of light and the wall of death, reflections of each other, both absolute, both unyielding, both shaping your story into something finite, something meaningful. You realize with a kind of quiet awe that the most profound truths are not the ones with answers, but the ones with questions. The speed of light is one of those truths. It tells you what cannot be done, but it leaves you with mysteries you cannot resolve. Why this speed? Why this universe? Why this balance between knowable and hidden? You cannot answer, you can only dwell within the question. And perhaps that is the point of science, not to erase mystery but to refine it, not to close loops but to open deeper ones. Each discovery does not end the story, it only sharpens it, makes the unknown clearer, more articulate, more wondrous. The speed of light is the perfect example. It is known with exquisite precision, measured, confirmed, proven in every way. And yet the deeper meaning remains untouched, mysterious, beyond reach. It is a law, it is a limit, it is a mystery, it is a mirror. You close your eyes and picture again the cosmos, galaxies wheeling, stars burning, black holes swallowing, photons racing endlessly across the dark, all of it held together by this single, constant speed. You cannot surpass it, but you can ask why. You cannot outrun it, but you can wonder what it means. You cannot break it, but you can let it break you open, into awe, into humility, into the kind of silence where questions linger without end. The wall does not resolve, it invites. And as you breathe, you realize that is enough. The universe does not owe you answers, it offers you mystery, it offers you horizons. It offers you the speed of light, constant and unyielding as both denial and gift. The rest is up to you. You have walked alongside it, argued with it, doubted it, tried to cheat it. You have seen the experiments, the paradoxes, the longing, the philosophy. And still, here at the end, the wall stands unbroken. But this ending is not resolution. It is not meant to be. The wall of light was never a puzzle to solve, but a mystery to live within. And mysteries do not end, they expand. So you find yourself asking questions again, the kind that cannot be answered, the kind that keep you awake even as they lull you towards sleep. If the speed of light is absolute, why this number? Why not faster, slower, different? Is it woven into the fabric of logic itself, or is it simply the rule of this one universe, one version of reality among countless others? Could there be universes where light runs differently, where horizons shift, where cause and effect obey a new rhythm? If so, what does that mean for this one, for the stability, the coherence, the very existence of the story you live within? And what if, buried deep in the laws of nature, there is a hidden symmetry not yet discovered? A law behind the law, a rule behind the rule? What if the wall of light is not the final word, but only a chapter in a longer story you cannot yet read? You cannot know, and that not knowing is its own kind of beauty. Because the wall of light does not only limit, it also invites. It invites you to wonder, to imagine, to dream of what might lie beyond even if you never reach it. You think of photons again, tiny messengers racing across the void, carrying with them the past of stars, the histories of galaxies, the memory of the beginning itself. They cannot be caught, they cannot be outrun, and yet they touch you every day. Every beam of light that strikes your eye is a survivor, a traveler, a story. The wall that keeps you from surpassing them is the same wall that ensures they can reach you at all. Without the speed of light, there would be no delay, no memory, no stars painted across the night sky. Without it, the universe would not be mysterious. It would be flat, shallow, empty of wonder. The wall preserves the depth of reality, and in that depth you find meaning. Still, the longing remains, to outrun, to surpass, to know what lies beyond. That longing is not weakness, it is humanity. It is the restless refusal to stop imagining. And so the story does not end with acceptance. It ends with yearning, a yearning sharpened by limits, made beautiful by denial. You imagine just once more what it would mean if the wall fell. If ships leapt between galaxies, if messages spanned the stars instantly, if the universe became intimate, close, immediate. Would it be better? Or would it lose the very mystery that makes it beautiful? You cannot know, you will never know, and that too is the gift. Because to live within the wall is to live with questions that never close. to gaze at the stars and feel not only curiosity but wonder, to accept not only what is proven but what is unknowable. Nothing surpasses the speed of light, and yet everything you are, your imagination, your wonder, your longing, surpasses the need to. The wall remains, but so do you. Dreaming, questioning, walking toward horizons you cannot reach. And maybe that is the truest story of all. You exhale slowly, the room is quiet, the stars above are silent. Somewhere photons are still racing, carrying histories older than Earth, stories you will never hear. But tonight that silence is enough, that mystery is enough. The wall of light is there, the horizon is there, the questions are there. And you, small, mortal, finite, are here alive within them, resting at the edge of wonder. No resolution, no closure, only the slow drift into mystery where answers fade and the only thing left is awe. And that is where you remain.